Let's pivot a little bit to what probably a lot of the people on the phone want to talk about besides just the technology. They want to talk about money and making money. So when we think about partners, in that process of transitioning to this, if you had to say, what's one question I'm going to go to my, I'm a partner, which actually I've been a partner before. So if I go to my customer, what's my first question I'm going to ask? And what am I going to ask them about, like, upgrading and what I should think about in the transition? Like, because again, at the end of the day, as Brad said earlier, right, the technology is great, but at the end of the day, it's about money and the impact to the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're interestingly, we all like technology. We live it. This is what we do. But in the real world, it's about business. Technology by itself is technology. That's all it is, right? If you can't, don't spend money. Nobody should spend money on technology just for the sake of spending money on technology. You do it to support your business. So I think that's the questions. You need to find out, what is your customer's business? What are they doing? What are their needs to grow their business? Everybody has to grow their business. Everybody in business has a plan to grow that business. Even education is a business. Don't kid yourself. Sure, they're publicly funded, but that's a business, and they treat it that way, right? They want to be successful. They want those kids next year to be better than the kids this year. They want to have growth. So first of all, understand your customer's business, and then help them to see two things. Help them to understand how this technology, as we just talked about today, can actually improve their business outcomes. Okay, and we've talked about these details. We don't need to rehash all of them yet. The second thing to talk to them about, how are they going to manage risk, right? Because money is risk. You're asking somebody to spend some money. You're asking them to risk their money. That's what you're asking them to do. How do you control that risk? And I think that's where Cambium is unique. That's an area where Cambium is specifically very unique in the ability to lower the risk by lowering total cost, making it easier to access technology, easier to use it, easier to deploy it. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, and I think there is also the aspect of, this is not a one-size-fits-all, right? There is this answer to that. The questions that come up may be organization dependent. And again, like we touched on earlier, it's a lot going to be driven by what the use cases are, what the business need around that are, and what's and the size of the organization, right? Like if I'm a school with multiple campuses, maybe then it's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You're not going to get it all done in one day, and so they probably take it one piece at a time. So in that case, it may be good to upgrade a site or a building, go all to wide, kind of mix and match it. While it'll work, it's probably not the best practice. So when you think of Wi-Fi, you should think of what is the roaming domain, right? Where are the clients going to roam that I need to provide the seamless experience? And that unit should be kind of upgraded as a whole. So if you're taking a building, for example, or a school, get that whole school to Wi-Fi 6 and think about the next school when you have in the next budget cycle, right? So it's really, again, going back to understanding what the customer is at from a requirements perspective, from a budget perspective, what the size of the network, and then opportunity to have the conversation to kind of help them along with the journey.
So actually, Rad, you said something earlier in the conversation that I've just kind of been noodling on. And so I think here's a good question, which is, how does a partner position this tech and demonstrate tons of value in economic circumstances that right now are largely defined by COVID? So it's tough out there, right? So what's the value prop here?
Yeah, I think the technology value prop, obviously we discussed, right? And it ultimately comes down to, as budgets are tight, people are going to look at it and saying, hey, how do I have these requirements, and the requirements are not going to go away. User expectations are not going to go away. How do I address this need in the most cost-effective fashion? And cost-effective doesn't mean that, hey, let me look at the BOM of one vendor versus another vendor and who's the cheapest and go with it. But really looking at this from the standpoint of, hey, I have an ongoing cost of operating and running this network. It's my horizon is, let's say, 5 years. And how do I get more efficiency on an ongoing basis? Obviously, the upfront CapEx spend is important. It's going to be a consideration. Hey, do I trust this vendor to deliver what I need to deliver on? That's important, right? But then increasing use of automation, simplicity, things like cloud management. How does it make it easy for me? If I was talking to a school district in the US, and they're talking about, hey, I have 3 guys on my staff. A lot of time is spent in the car driving from one school to another. They go on site and then they figure out, hey, wait a second, it was not really anything to do with the network, because we all are guilty of that. When something doesn't work, we say Wi-Fi sucks, right? So something like that to that effect. So, and it's not the case always. So how do I make sure that I'm not sending my staff running around? If I'm an MSP, I'm running 20 customers, it's expensive to send somebody on site now. So really those considerations are important, right? It's really, and sometimes that is overlooked. Sometimes the actual total cost is overlooked. So some of the things there has to be understood and quantified effectively.